Hello, hello, hello. Is this thing on? Ah, well, yes. Well, today I'll be taking a look at the Eighth Doctor's last story, or last adventure type story, being Night of the Doctor. Love it. I don't like it, I love it. It's why I like Night of the Doctor. Spoiler alert, yeah, I love it. And also, I've got a new t-shirt. Woo! Anyway, yeah. In all seriousness though, I just like the costume. That's it. That's all I like. I don't like anything else. Don't like his Sonic he uses in it. Don't like the hair. Awful. Awful hair. No, but in all seriousness, I adore Night of the Doctor. It's so simplistic, it flows nicely, it has a simple beginning, middle and end. I know that sounds insane, but from Stephen Moffat, it's like he does the beginning, the end, and then the middle and stuff, and jumbles it all up, and it's like, sometimes when, especially with Stephen Moffat, I found the more pressure there is to him, or pressure on him, and to deliver something, and the more constraints there are, the better he seems to churn out a story. You know, give him all the money in the world, or give him X amount of money, give him X amount of money for stuff, and these actors and these people around him to help him, you know, and he'll just churn out some crap. But give him 1 or 2 days, or a few days to churn out something. Like, he rang Paul McGann. I love this story that he rang Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann here, right? He rang him, said, "Do you want to do a Doctor Who, like, you know, prequel to Day of the Doctor, you know, the 50th?" And then he was like, well, I think he was like, well, do you have a script for it? And so on. And yeah, if you have a script. And he's like, if you say yes, I'll do the script. And it's like, what? Like, you know, and he churned out this amazing thing that did get leaked apparently, but I didn't know about that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I absolutely, my mind just went and blew the frick up. Like, seriously, there was shrapnel of my brain matter all over the place. Like, you know, McGann, you know, just what, you know, like, what a lead up to the Day of the Doctor. Randomly just getting out of nowhere a freaking prequel that we didn't know we were going to get with the Eighth Doctor, you know. I think my only gripe is that in some respects it's not long enough, but then, as I've just said, the longer it would have been, the worse it could have got potentially, because it's so airtight, because it's so short, it's so methodical and flows so well because it has to, you know. There's no lag, and there's no padding, and there's no slow down bit, you know. Somehow there's a bit of humour, you know, with the line of, you know, oh, I have 4 minutes, that's plenty of time, bring me a TV, or let's watch TV and that, and read a book, and bring me knitting, you know. There's humour there, there's intensity, you know, from the Eighth Doctor being like, get out, you know. It solidifies his tenure pretty much, you know. It's weird because his tenure is the most weirdest of all the Doctors, for those of you who don't know. He basically has his beginning and end the bookends of his era are both TV appearances, but all the middle section is just all Big Finish audios and, I guess, Doctor Who magazine comic books and Titan Comics and stuff like that, you know. For the longest time as well, the Big Finish stuff, pretty much all of his run was regarded as non-canon, non-official Doctor Who. But because of this, Stephen Moffat did the amazing job of single-handedly making a lot of fans happy for once by saying, actually, you know what, fans? You know that stuff you love, the Big Finish audios, the Eighth Doctor ones? They're all canon, they're all official Doctor Who, you know, stories. So, you know, because he says all of his old companions, Kerez, Charlie, Kerez, you know, Tamsin, Molly, and that, and loads of other people and all that, you know. And he gets introduced to this new character. She's like, you know, what? Who are you? And just the kinetic franticness is so amazing. That beginning bit, you know, like, where are we going? Well, to the back. Why? Because the front blows up first, think it through, you know, and I like that, just logic. And again, I miss that. I miss the lexicon of the Eighth Doctor, you know, a mixture between like the lexicon of the old Doctors like John Pertwee and Tom Baker, right, and the franticness and humour of Tom, the sort of lexicon of John Pertwee meets the dashing young, more attractiveness and frantic sort of youthfulness of like David Tennant, you know. So what's not to love there? You've also got this like new updated version of his costume from the 1996 TV movie, if you can see that. Like he's got this sort of like green coat, which I love, boots, you know, and that this really rugged warlike look, because this is set just before the Time War. This, I think, just really on the verge of like the Time War just about starting and about to kick off, and the Doctor is held back as much as possible. You know, I think some of the Big Finish audios these days now with the Eighth Doctor are very much based around his encounters in the Time War, but he is so very apprehensive of being in the Time War, and I mean it shows in this, and that's why the 50th, you know, the 11th and 10th Doctor just hate John Hurt's Doctor. Why? Because he's not the Doctor he left, who, you know, his moral compass, never cruel nor cowardly, he lost that, he forgot that, he stopped doing that, you know, within the Time War. He stopped doing that because he is not the Doctor, and he goes in being the Doctor and comes out not being the Doctor, you know. And I love the reintroduction of Khan. You know, we've got an old classic Doctor Who planet back now, and civilization with these people who are very, well, oddly enough, not that big a bigger part in Doctor Who mythology as I would have thought they would have been. They're only in Brennan Morbius, and then we never see them again up until Night of the Doctor, which is just insane. And I love that as well. Like, it's subtle, it's a nice little bit of fan service, but it's subtle, it's nice, it's nothing too complex, it's nothing that like hinders or dampens the story. It's just, here's this returning planet that was from the classic series that me being Stephen Moffat as a writer, I like, you know, and that's all he had to do. There you go. You know, the woman who plays the main Khan woman person, she is phenomenal. I think Khan has been a bit overused since Series 9, personally. I think they should have really spread it out more, or really only used it once or twice. But obviously with all good things in the new series, they get overused and then I start to not like them anymore. But, you know, I think the Sonic is awesome in this. The TARDIS is all battered and that, you know, and that dialogue of her, you know, Cass being like, no, you're a Time Lord, you're bad. Well, at least I'm not a Dalek. Who can tell, you know, you're both as bad as each other. Who can tell who's worse than the other? You're just as bad as each other. And then shuts the door and would rather die than go with him. Like, that just shows the monstrosity of the Time Lords clearly, you know. And technically the Doctor dies in this story right at the beginning. He's dead, you know. And then the Khan woman's like, oh, the Doctor has finally returned to Khan. My sisters, let's heal him. And then he comes back to life only for 4 minutes. And that, I might add, and then, yeah, has to change into a warrior. Like, what a transition. I think my major two gripes with this story is, or three that I can think of, is one, the length. I wish it was longer, but then again, it could be way worse, of course. Two, I don't like the title sequence. It is really simplistic and boring, and I would have much preferred an actual well-designed one, even if it made the mini episode longer. I don't care. I want a better title sequence, and it still drives me nuts to this day, but that's just a nitpick, or the biggest complaint that I can think of. And also, thirdly, part of me wonders how Big Finish would have handled his end, you know, because think about it this way, he's essentially the Big Finish, he's the Doctor Who Big Finish Doctor, really, you know, he's the one who started on audio, and you would have thought really should have ended on audio. I know he started on TV and then pretty much did 90% of his tenure on audio, but, you know, it'd have been interesting to see how he'd have ended, or how they would have ended his run if it had been done on audio, because again, with the Sixth Doctor, The Last Adventures, so many people gave that such good reviews that I was just like, whoa, imagine, blown away with the possibility of, imagine if they did 4-hour-long episodes, stories with, like, amazing writers like Robert Sherman, Paul Cornell, I don't know, maybe Stephen Moffat, I don't know, I don't think he's ever written for a Big Finish one, but I don't know, Paul Cornell, Robert Sherman, Matt Fitton and Nicholas Briggs, 4 stories from those 4 writers with the 8th Doctor would be insane to me, I mean, I think a lot of fans were annoyed that he regenerated in the story because then that meant that he couldn't be in the Time War. I want to do a whole video on, what I think of, should the 8th Doctor have been in the Time War, would be the title of that video, and I want to go into depth about what I think of whether or not the 8th Doctor should have been in the Time War or not, but as I have quite a few different ideas and thoughts and feelings floating about in the old brain tank, in the old head meat, but yeah, I just adore this story. It flows so well. I'm just sad that Cass dies, of course, in this one. I'm kind of sad that the 8th Doctor dies in this one. Well, he doesn't die, he regenerates, but he kind of dies. The Doctor, technically, if we're being pedantic, kind of dies in the story, because again, although he then turns into another man, it's not even another man who has his own moral compass. He doesn't, and so future Doctors don't see him as the Doctor, so, which is quite scary to think of, really. But yeah, I don't like this story. I love this story. Easily a 10 out of 10. Easily the best prequel ever, for Doctor Who at least. But yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, rate and subscribe.